Hi, my name's Phil. I like to come out politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Musk's threats to take out any members of Congress who support Trump's big beautiful bill if it passes. He claims that the second the bill passes, he will launch a new America Party the next day, but he's also said that he'll cost Republicans who support it their primaries next year. So it is just possible that he hasn't worked out a consistent strategy yet. But if he backs up his words with actions, I'd say this officially begins the civil war between Trump and Musk. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So Elon Musk has attacked the big beautiful bill consistently from the start for the fact it will raise the national debt by trillions of dollars. He said it was shameful for Republicans to have campaigned to reduce government spending and then vote for the biggest debt increase in history. But he also made two threats to any member of Congress who supports this bill passing into law. I'm not entirely sure he can do both. Well, maybe he can. The first threat was that they would lose their primary next year. So obviously a threat just to those Republicans up for an election next year, which is only so many of them. And given that most of them are in the House of Representatives who already passed it, that might be more about tripping it up if it passes the Senate and then goes back to the House. Now, the bill only passed by one vote in the House, if I remember correctly, first time. But I'll get onto the significance of that in a moment. So because Musk made a second threat as well, you see, if the bill passes, he said, he will form the America Party the next day. Now, I don't know if he can follow through on both threats. Like, is someone allowed to fund two different political parties like this? Because what it would mean is if he's funding primaries or a primary challenge next year, that means he's funding Republicans for their primaries whilst also being effectively the owner or major backer of a different political party. Is that allowed? But if he can, then I guess this would be an attempted pincer movement from Musk. He will fund anyone willing to challenge an incumbent Republican targeted by him in their primary. And if that fails, attempt to split the loony vote with his own America Party candidate standing against any Republicans targeted who successfully overcome his primary challenge. In other words, in order to defeat Musk, any Republican supporting this bill would have to beat his money in two separate elections, their primary and then the election itself. Be interesting to see how much this would concern Republicans after Musk's failure in Wisconsin earlier this year, where he attempted to back a Republican candidate with a lot of money who was already likely to win, only to see them defeated as the anti-Musk vote turned out against him. This is something of a turnaround after Musk was given the strong impression he'd capitulated to Trump as well. See, when their relationship first blew up, there were very harsh words traded between the two of them on two different social media platforms. It was really weird. It was like on YouTube where you get a YouTuber who goes, "Oh, this other person said this thing about me. This is my reaction video." Then the other one goes, "What the hell, man?" And then they do their own reaction videos. So they communicate with their own videos. So it's a bit like that. But after the dust settled, it was Musk deleting most of his tweets and saying he regretted doing it. But interestingly, I noted at the time that of the tweets that were put out that night, one of them wasn't deleted, and it was the ones related to his threats to form his own political party to oppose Trump. So it looks like we're going to see some fireworks in the next week. Trump is pushing very hard for his bill not just to be passed into law, but in time for July the 4th, Independence Day. I mean, that's an interesting dynamic in itself, isn't it? Trump is effectively doing battle with a foreign opponent from across the Atlantic for supremacy. So what might happen next week? Well, let's say the bill fails this week. Now, with or without Musk, that's possible because a lot of Republicans are not only unhappy like Musk about the soaring debt, but many are worried about the individual consequences of the cuts necessary to make the numbers work. The way the Republicans are getting the bill past a likely Democrat filibuster is with a bit of a weird rule, which means a non-partisan has to be a sort of like referee on the process. That puts limits on what the bill can do. So if you want to avoid the filibuster, you have to limit what you can do in the bill if you want to dodge it and pass it with a simple majority. Complying with these rules means very tricky choices. Cutting food aid and healthcare for the poorest in America, that is like the plan, and that hits Republicans as well. Because it's all very well Musk threatening to unseat them at the next election. Their own voters might independently decide to do just that if they get the balance wrong here. You know, this is the calculation. How much can the Republicans squeeze Americans before it hurts enough for them to bite back at the election? So even without Musk's intervention, we don't really know if this bill can pass at all, let alone in time for this Friday. But let's just say that the bill doesn't pass, at least this week. So Trump won't be very happy. Be interested to see how he reacts, especially if Musk claims that his influence led to the failure. If Musk is claiming victory, if the bill doesn't pass this week. Trump wants the bill, and he wants it for July 4th. If it fails, might he blame Musk for it? And if he does, what's he going to do about it? Right now, Trump is attacking democratic rights and freedoms with unprecedented ferocity, as far as America goes anyway. Does Musk think that his wealth and the strategic importance of some of his companies protects him from Trump's drive for Russian-style dictatorship? Does Musk think his own allies in Trump's team gives him additional defensive and offensive options? Because if the bill fails or even stutters and Musk claims victory, all eyes will be on Trump for his response. You know, he's put a lot of political capital behind this bill. He cannot just shrug his shoulders if it fails. He'll need to slap Musk down. But how will he do it? And how will Musk respond? But then, of course, there's a second possible outcome. What if the bill passes, as Trump expects? He's signing it into law, big smile on his face on July the 4th. Musk then has to start seeking out suitable challengers for next year's primaries, as well as set up his own new America Party. Can't wait to see what the logo for that one will look like. He'll have 16 months to get it up to speed. He doesn't need the party to grow strong enough to win seats. The party itself will not be a real political party. It'll be a vehicle for revenge, really. Musk says he will form the party if the bill is passed, which of course implies that if the bill fails, he won't. So the party will only exist literally to challenge a finance bill. I mean, would that be the weirdest reason for starting a political party ever? Granted, it is a very big and far-reaching finance bill. But, you know, it might be better to call it the Revenge Party with the motto, I warned you. But this party doesn't need to win, as I say. It just needs to pull votes away from the Republicans. Democrats winning is good enough for Musk. And there's another potential advantage for Musk as well. Given that the party will be standing in opposition to the finance bill come the congressional elections next year, next November, they will have a year's worth of evidence of the damage it's done to ordinary Americans, right? Assuming Musk gives the job of running the strategy to someone competent and doesn't try to do it himself, might actually be able to do some damage to the Republicans. So if the bill passes and Musk backs up his threats with actions, be interested to see how Trump responds to that. And if he decides to ignore the threat as weak, what happens if opinion polls start to show that actually it would be capable of winning votes? Doesn't have to be much, like I say. Might only need to be 5 to 10% to make a big difference. What will Trump do in order to avoid the midterms turning into a shit show? It's all very well and good applying unheard of levels of voter suppression. If Musk still throws a spanner in the works and the Democrats take control for the second half of his presidency, what then? Or will Trump be confident that there will be no tight elections taking place next year, that given his progress during his first 6 months on the road to dictatorship, that the next 16 will mean he can basically just control the results without risk? Be interesting. But assuming Musk doesn't back down again, this sounds like a proper civil war has begun between political power and wealth. I wonder who's going to win. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.